And if you want to look at what, the real concern here is when you have agencies like the FBI trying to explain, for example, Muslim radicalization and developing some really concerning and fundamentally flawed theories of how, say, a normal Muslim suddenly turns into a violent extremist. Agencies like the FBI trying to explain, for example, Muslim radicalization and developing the agencies that are going to be tasked with doing some of this enforcement. And if you want to look at what, the real concern here is when you have agencies like the FBI trying to explain, for example, Muslim radicalization and developing some really concerning and fundamentally flawed theories of how, say, a normal Muslim suddenly turns into a violent extremist, and I'm saying this with a sort of sense of irony, but unfortunately we've seen documents about various theories that have been peddled to justify the sort of very expansive, broad-based, and suspicionless surveillance of Muslim communities. And so it's with that background and knowledge of that very long history, and I'm just giving an example of Muslims. We don't even have to talk about the sort of acrobatics that more recently even the FBI has done to try to designate violent extremists, Black identity extremists, what they call Black identity extremists, to justify the surveillance of those kinds of political dissent movements. So it's with that knowledge of that background that I sort of bring deep suspicion of efforts of kind of law enforcement agencies, to this idea that if we just gave them more tools, this time directing them at white supremacists, that they would get it right. I don't think that history shows us that that's how that happens.
There you have it. I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rachakodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is In the Time of Universal Deceit. Now, I happened to catch this earlier when I was driving, and I happened to be listening to Elder Pastor's video, and this happened to be underneath, and it was live at the time, and I clicked on it real quick, and I just happened to catch that part about the Black extremists, Black identity groups, and that's pretty much what these devils have been up to. And this is why you have this individual in the White House by the name of Biden, President Biden, that is signing so many executive orders, because they're shutting down they're shutting down the avenue, so to speak, for so-called free speech, and they're using this Black extremists, dissident, home terrorism, and all that as a way to put a gag and a muzzle on all people of the world, especially here in America, that have any opposing views to the so-called government. And now we know that this government is set up under wickedness, under witchcraft. We know that it's set up, in total opposition to Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, as per 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, and many other scriptures. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. When the wicked are in authority, the people mourn. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to gag everybody so that no one can really speak the truth. And anyone that speaks anything outside of what is mandated by the government is pretty much an enemy of the state. And they will deal with them severely as per the or draconian legislation that they're passing, that goes hand in hand with the prophecy in the book of Revelation chapter 13. So what I want to do is look up a couple of words. First, insurrection is a violent uprising against an authority or government. And this is why they call people insurgents. And everything that they've used as far as terrorism is concerned against international groups that so-called pose a threat, they're now, through the Patriot Act and many other bills that were passed into law, are now using that to paint or broadly paint that picture of terrorism upon the citizens of the United States. Anyone that speaks against them has a problem with what government does. Pro-lifers, religious, believers in the coming of the Messiah, all make themselves an enemy to the state and fall into that category of insurgent, or another one is dissident, which we have here. Dissident, a person who opposes official policy, especially that of an authoritarian state. And this is what this place is pretty much has become, an authoritarian state. Now you say, what is an authoritarian state? Well, authoritarianism, broadly defined, authoritarian states include countries that lack the civil liberties such as freedom of religion, or countries in which the government and the opposition do not alternate in power at least once following free elections. So pretty much all of that free speech, that just so-called constitution afforded people freedom of religion, so on and so forth, is slowly but surely coming to the point where they're stopping it. They're stopping everything in their tracks. All so-called rights, civil rights, the right to bear arms, and the right to, peaceably assemble and speak your piece on the free speech, and all of those securities that everyone had once, they're slowly but surely being taken away and leaning towards an authoritarian type government. All right, which leads us to the next word, which is domestic terrorism. All right, domestic terrorism, the committing of terrorist acts in the perpetrator's own country against their fellow citizens. And this is pretty much what they've done. They've taken this demonic Satan's paintbrush and painted a broad stroke upon the so-called citizens of the United States and just called them domestic terrorists. And their justification is the legislation they have, in on the books. And this is why they push so hard to push these laws on the books, so that they can have the justification, to act them out when the time comes. And this is why it says, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees. Now, I looked up this word, FBI, right, under this domestic terrorism and terrorism in general. So I'm going to read a little bit of this. I put this in the description box. I put this video in the description box. I put some of these these other tabs tabs in the description box, so if brothers want to go and check it out some more. But I'm gonna read a little bit of this. It says, now all of this started, the so-called domestic terrorism and all that really took foothold during the time of 9/11. And there's another thing. If you say that the government was involved in 9/11, then that's, those are grounds for them to come after you, so on and so forth. So this is what has led up to this pretty much domestic terrorism. It says, at the same time, the United States also faced significant challenges from domestic terrorists. See, in fact, between 1980 and 2000, the FBI recorded 335 incidents or suspected incidents of terrorism in this country. Of these, 247 were attributed to domestic terrorists, while 88 were determined to be international in nature. And we read that domestic terrorism is what? The committing of terrorist acts in the perpetrator's own country against their fellow citizens. So you see how they paint that broad stroke? It says, threats emanating from domestic and international terrorists will continue to represent a significant challenge to the United States for the foreseeable future. Further, as terrorists continue to refine and expand their methodologies, the threats they pose will become even greater. And this is what they do. They have to continuously put this in the mind of the average citizen, because the average citizen is just that, average. They're just a 9-to-5er. They ain't thinking about nothing else but going home and and providing for their family, putting money away, making sure they pay their house off, so on and so forth. Yeah, that's another good one too. A totalitarian regime. And that's what they're thinking about. They're not thinking about, the actual things that are really happening, that are affecting their everyday lives. Now a lot more people are starting to wake up to it, because of social media, and the internet itself, but at one point there weren't that many people that were focused on what was really going on. It says, background. The FBI divides the terrorist threat facing the United States into two broad categories, domestic and international. Domestic terrorism is the unlawful use or threatened use of violence by a group or individual based and operating entirely within the United States, or its territories, without foreign direction, committed against person or property to intimidate or coerce a government, the civilian population, or any segment thereof in furtherance of political or social objectives. So if your social objectives are against this government, then they're labeling everyone a domestic terrorist. Because if we that believe that the second coming of Yahushua is coming, we're on this list, and we're going to show you that. You can read the rest of this, if you feel like it. I just want to jump to domestic terrorism. Domestic right-wing terrorist groups often adhere to the principle of racial supremacy and embrace anti-government, anti-regulatory beliefs. Generally, extremist right-wing groups engage in activity that is protected by constitutional guarantees of free speech and assembly. Law enforcement becomes involved when the volatile talk of these groups transgresses into unlawful action. And pretty much a lot of those groups you see out there have been infiltrated by the FBI, CIA, and other groups, police groups, because they have infiltrated them for the purpose of demonizing them. Now you have some groups that were already set up, the higher ups that were already set up, whether they're white supremacists or black identity extremists, they were already set up, to push the agenda of these devils, but then you have some groups that are just trying to, teach, whatever the case is, and they get infiltrated. And then you have us, which are teaching the words of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai and telling them that the Lord is coming to take this place down. And that is the biggest threat than anything to any of these so-called elite and these Edomites that are ruling, because they don't want to lose their authority. They don't want to hear that their authority is going to be lost. So what do? They want to muzzle everybody. That's what the scriptures say. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees. Now you can read more of this. I'm not going to read anymore. There's a whole lot more. I just read through some of it. Like I said, I put that in the description box. I just want to move on and then get to some precepts. Black identity extremists in the United States. Black identity extremists, BIE, was a designation used by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI. From August 2017 to July 2019, it first appeared in a counterterrorism report dated August 3rd, 2017, sent to thousands of American police departments and described safety concerns about allegedly violent African-American activists. The term was discontinued when the FBI merged several classifications under the umbrella term of racially motivated violent extremism. But they still have this BIE, movement. Why? Because it goes back to what they already have on the books. See, the books is what they push. This is why you have individuals like Vocab Malone, and you have certain individuals that are Israelites, that are leaders among Israelites, among Israelite groups, and they keep using the word black man, black woman, black, because there's an agenda. It's already in the books. That's what's in the books, and that's what the people need to hear. And when the people hear that's, oh, you want them black extreme, I don't want to hear nothing you got to say. And that justifies them when they roll up and do what they got to do. Now, this is Project Megiddo, right? And in Project Megiddo, you have summary, executive summary. You have the introduction that breaks down, what it goes into, and it gives you the different pages of where everything is found. And these are the classifications of the people that they consider to be under this umbrella. You have Christian identity, white supremacy, militias, black Hebrew Israelites. Now, why couldn't they just put Hebrew Israelites? Why do they have to put black Hebrew Israelites? Because that is the term. That is the code Just like terrorism is a code, terror is a code, black is the code. These are those black extremist groups, black Hebrew Israelites. That's why every time vocab will come out and other so-called Christian apologists or whatever, they kept saying black Hebrew Israelites. When you watch the news, they'll keep saying black Hebrew Israelites. Why? Because that is a term that is on the books. And that is the term that is going to justify them rolling on the Israelites when that time comes. Bottom line. That's why they keep using it. No matter how many times we tell them we're not black. You have brothers that look like they're all the different nations pretty much in Israel. But their lineage goes back to so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians somewhere down the line. But the look, everybody's, and first of all, there's no such thing as a black man or a black woman. I see brown men, brown women, different shades. But I've never seen no black man or black woman. That is a term that was given to you by the so-called white men, the Edomites. And this is a term that is on the books, and this is a term that they're using to demonize and to justify themselves when they come and do what they have to do. So do what you got to do, because when you make your move, the Lord is going to make his move. How about that? So now I want to go to the book of St. John 19:1. Then Pilate thereof took Yahushua and scourged him. And this is after the beatings he received from the high priests and the different priests, and the leaders of Israel at the time, before they brought him to Pontius Pilate. It says, and the soldiers platted a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and they put on him a purple robe. Why? Because the accusation was that he made himself a king. So that is a threat to the Roman authorities. And this is why they brought him before the authorities, because they said he made himself equal to the Most High as a son of the Most High. And he says that he's the king, right? It says, and said, Hail, King of the Jews, or Yahweh the Yah, or Yahweh the Yum. And they smote him with their hands. And this is all to fulfill prophecy, because the prophecy spoke about all of this happening to Yahushua. Pilate therefore went forth again and saith unto them, Behold, I bring him forth to you, that you may know that I find no fault in him. Then came Yahushua forth, wearing the crown of thorns and in the purple robe. And Pilate saith unto them, Behold the man. This is in the Latin is ecce homo. Behold the man. When the chief priests thereof and others saw him, they cried out, saying, Crucify him, crucify him. Pilate saith unto them, Take ye him and crucify him, for I find no fault in him. The Jews answered him, We have a law, and by our law he ought to die, because he made himself the son of the Most High. See? And this is the king of Israel, which he is. It says, when Pilate therefore heard that saying, he was the more afraid. Because remember, his wife told him, have nothing to do with this righteous man, for I have suffered many things in a dream about him, because of him. And went again into the judgment hall, and saith unto Yahushua, Whence art thou? But Yahushua gave him no answer. It said, Then saith Pilate unto him, Speakest thou none unto me? Knowest thou not that I have power to crucify thee, and have power to release thee? Yahushua answered, Thou couldst have no power at all against me, except it were given thee from above. Therefore he that delivered me unto thee hath the greater sin. And that's why them Israelites back then, when they came back in the reincarnation, a lot of them were lynched, castrated. A lot of that shit that happened to them was because of the curse that they put on themselves and on their children when they delivered Yahushua over to the Roman authorities. It says, And from thenceforth Pilate sought to release him, but the Jews cried out, saying, If thou let this man go, thou art not Caesar's friend. For whosoever maketh himself a king speaketh against Caesar. So this was treasonous. This was insurgency. This was dissident. This was, considered a treasonous act back then against the Roman authority. So anyone that, beginning with Yahushua, and anyone that taught this doctrine, they made themselves, they were in peril because of that. So that great persecution, that great insurrection is coming again in this time. And this is why they're pushing all this legislation in place. And like I was watching the video Elder Apostle did, speaking about Joe Biden, if I'm not mistaken on it, that he might be Antiochus Epiphanes coming back. He said, is he Antiochus Epiphanes coming back? We'll find out. And he would fit that because he's a real scumbag anyway. It says, when Pilate therefore heard that saying, he brought Yahushua forth and sat down in the judgment seat in a place that is called the pavement, but in the Hebrew, Gabbatha. And it was the preparation of the Passover, and about the 6th hour, and he saith unto the Jews, behold your king. See? So pretty much they were saying that anyone that makes himself a king speaketh against Caesar. Now I want to get a couple of precepts that I have that I wrote down. Let's see. I don't really have any particular order, so I'm just going to go and grab what I have. Mark 12. Matter of fact, you know what? Before I go there, let's go to this one first. Luke 23. Luke 23:1. And the whole multitude of them arose and led him unto Pilate, and they began to accuse him, saying, we found this fellow perverting the nation and forbidding to give tribute to Caesar, saying that he himself is Yahushai, or the anointed, a king. See? So they were accusing him of insurrection or sedition against the Roman authorities. Now let's go to Matthew 17. Like I said, I got a couple of precepts and then we could close out. 17 and 22. It says, and while they abode in Galilee, Yahushua said unto them, the Son of Man shall be betrayed into the hands of men, and they shall kill him, and the 3rd day he shall be raised again. And they were exceeding sorry. Verse 24. And when they were come to Capernaum, they that received tribute money came to Peter and said, does not your master pay tribute? He saith, yes. And when he was come into the house, Yahushua prevented him, saying, what thinkest thou, Simon? Of whom do the kings of the earth take custom or tribute? Of their own children or of strangers? So Israel was strangers in their own land because they were paying custom and tribute to the Romans. Peter saith unto him, of strangers. Yahushua said unto him, then are the children free. Notwithstanding, lest we should offend them, go thou to the sea and cast an hook and take up the fish that first cometh up. And when thou hast opened his mouth, thou shalt find a piece of money. Take that and give it unto them for me and thee. All right. Now let's go from there to the book of Mark, chapter 12 and verse 17. Yeah, and Yahushua said unto them, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to the Most High the things that are the Most High. And they marveled at him. Yeah, because, we still are under this devil, so we still have to pay tribute. But they were accusing him of sedition, of treason, of going against the Roman authority. And it's going to get bad out here the closer we get, because they're going to be pushing more and more of this legislation that's going to make things tighter and tighter. This is Mark 14. Let's see what this says. And 61. Salaki for a minute. All right. It says, but he held his peace and answered nothing. Again, the high priest asked him and said unto him, art thou the anointed, the Son of the Blessed? And Yahushua said, I am. And you shall see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. Man, so you can imagine this dude, Caiaphas, was irate when he heard that. It says, then the high priest rent his clothes and saith, what need we any further witness? You have heard the blasphemy. What think ye? And they all condemned him to be guilty of death. I didn't really go through a couple of these, but the main ones we read was in John the 19th chapter, Luke 23. Let's go to Acts 17 real quick. And then I got one more. Oh, actually, a couple more after that. Acts 17 and 1. Now, when they had passed through Amphipolis and Apollonia, they came to Thessalonica, where was a synagogue of the Jews. And Paul, as his manner was, went into them and unto them, and 3 Sabbath days reasoned with them out of the scriptures, opening in the legend that Yahushua must needs have suffered and risen again from the dead, and that this Yahushua whom I preach unto you is the anointed. And some of them believed and consorted with Paul and Silas and the devout Greeks, of a great multitude, and of the chief women not a few. And these were all Israelites. People say, oh, those Greeks, those white people. No, they wasn't. They were all Israelites. But the Jews which believed not, moved with envy, took unto them certain lewd fellows of the basest sort, grimy individuals, which I could think of a group we can credit this to, but I'm not going to say the name, and gathered a company and set all the city on an uproar. See, so there was an uproar behind what was being taught, by the disciples and the apostles of the Lord, and assaulted the house of Jason and sought to bring them out to the people. And when they found them not, they drew Jason and certain brethren unto the rulers of the city, crying, These that have turned the world, meaning the world of Israel, upside down, are come hither also, whom Jason hath received. And these all do contrary to the decrees of Caesar. See, they're doing contrary to the decrees of Caesar, to the law. So they're dissidents. They're treasonous. They're seditious, saying that there is another king, one Yahushua, and that is the truth. So it's gonna come to the point where these things, as far as faith-based believers that believe in this, are gonna be a threat and are gonna be threatened. And one of the threats is going to be against this government that's being established, this authoritarian type government. Let's see. It says, and they troubled the people and the rulers of the city when they heard these things. Okay, so pretty much that this is what caused all this anxiety and animosity, dealing with the teachings of Yahushua back then. Let's see. All right, so now let's go from there real quick to the book of 2nd Ezra 15. I'll read a couple of verses and a couple of verses in 2nd Ezra 16, and we'll close out. 2nd Ezra 15 and 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Why? Because the draconian measures and the draconian legislation is going to get so nasty that people are going to get fed up. You see what's going on in different places around the world, out in Europe. You know how they're pretty much going buck wild against the authorities because they're pushing this lockdown, and it's unlawful. Right now you see what's going on out there in Australia, how they got long lines, of people because they went into an extreme lockdown. So now you got long lines of people that hardly have anything, to get. And in order for them to get it, they have to stand in them long ass lines, like what happened in Venezuela. Let's not forget that, which Elder Apostle Tar mentioned about that before, that was going to come here also, and it did come here to a certain degree, but it's going to get worse. Because remember, at one point when this whole thing first started, people were in them long ass lines trying to get into the supermarkets. Now it's going to get even worse. So let's go to 2nd Ezra 16 and 68. For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you. That's dealing with the wrath of the dragon coming down on the people, and it's also which he's going to use his police forces. It says, and they shall take away certain of you and feed you, being idle with things offered unto idols. If you're idle, what does that mean? That means you're in a concentrated place, in a prison, concentration camps, detention centers, with things offered unto idols, because this is what they're pushing. They're pushing their new world order. It says, and they that consent unto them, meaning those that go along with it, shall be had in derision and in reproach, because you're going to get jacked up anyway, because when they don't need you anymore, they're going to discard you. And after all of that, you make it through whatever you make it through, and the Lord is going to destroy you. And trodden underfoot. For there shall be in every place, and in the next cities, a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. So this great insurrection is coming upon those that fear the Lord. And we see the belt tightening. We see the grip tightening. We see the muzzle. They're starting to stack the muzzles up more and more because now you got a double mask, triple mask, quadruple mask, whatever. So that's putting more and more pressure on the people. So that's why certain people are going to lose it, and certain people are just going to be like that sheep that just goes to the slaughter. It says they shall be like madmen, sparing none. Why? Because they're going to have the fury of the Lord upon them and that demonic glaze of the New World Order. It's to the point where you can't talk to these officials anymore. They feel that they are above hearing anything that you have to say. All they want you to do is just shut the hell up, comply, or I'm busting your ass, or I'm going to kill you. That's their attitude. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. See, still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. That great insurrection that's coming upon the people of the Lord. And that the name of this lesson, right, is in the time of universal deceit, which the whole quote is, in the time of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act. See? And anything that goes against what they say, whether it's verbal or physical, they're going to take that seriously, and they're going to come down with the hammer upon anyone that doesn't comply. See, at first it's going to be voluntary, yeah, but eventually that grip is going to get tighter and tighter, and the more people they get under their spell, the harder they're going to come. It says, for they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as gold is tried, as gold in the fire. Why? Because the men of the Lord, the elect, men and women and children of the Lord are going to be protected in these times. Some of the elect are going to have to go through some of these things to glorify the Lord, because that's the way that the Lord set it up. But for the most part, the elect are going to be taken care of. They're going to be straight. It says, Hear, O ye my beloved, saith the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. So we're right at the door of these times of trouble. They're talking about like a major lockdown, if I'm not mistaken, anywhere between mid-March to May. I just heard that. I forgot exactly where. I'm not sure if that was Dabu 7 or somewhere else. But they're cracking down, man. They're cracking down. It says, be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for the Most High is your guide. And the guide of them who keep my commandments and precepts, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves. So pretty much, in the time of universal deceit, the truth is a very bad thing for the New World Order, the NWO. And anyone that has anything to do with truth, especially the Israelites, are gonna suffer great persecution. And that's coming. So pretty much, with that, I pray that your brothers have been edified. And to the next time I say, Shalom.